Hey, welcome back. I'm Jhone, and you're in the Gen Zone. Let me start by congratulating Karen Bass for her recent victory as LA's first female mayor ever, and a previous guest on our show. Here's a highlight of my interview with Mayor Bass to learn a little bit more about her platform.
First of all, we have to get people off the street. 74% of the people in tents are African American or Latino. Black folks are only 9% of the population. We're 30% of the folks who are unhoused. We have to get people off the streets into temporary housing and then into permanent supportive housing. Most important, you get somebody off the street on day one, and before day one is over, you also provide the needed services that the individual needs in order to not fall into homelessness again. Maybe it's mental health, maybe it's substance abuse, maybe it's a job, but you have to address why someone was unhoused, or they will be back out on the streets within weeks. Priority has gone to building luxury housing and not housing for the average person. The minimum wage in Los Angeles is $15 an hour. That's about $32,000 a year. And at this point in time, that really does not afford rent anywhere. So what I plan to do is massively increase the supply of housing. That will decrease the cost. And one of the ways to do that is to break through all of the bureaucracy that ends up taking so long to build and makes it very expensive. My public safety plan calls for getting officers on the beat, on the street as soon as possible in neighborhoods that would like to have an increased police presence. And the way to do that is to get them from behind the desk. Officers are doing administrative duty that could be on the beat. That way we can get them on the streets as fast as possible. We also need to hire additional police because we're down 200 to 400 police officers because of retirements and people quitting, et cetera. However, in addition to that, I believe in doubling down, tripling down on crime prevention, community-based strategies. And I've done this work for many years, but the city has never been significantly committed to this type of work, these type of organizations. I plan to triple down and make sure that communities have the resources they need so crime doesn't take place in the first place.
Genzo.
The New York State Supreme Court has ordered New York City to rehire and pay back wages to government employees who were fired for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine.
I know that's right.
Now, this opens the door for a whole lot of questions. So, the employees who did follow the vaccine mandate, can they now file a lawsuit against the state for being forced to comply? Or what about the unemployment money that the fired employees received? I mean, they are getting back pay. So will the IRS start mailing collection letters?
I'm coming for that again until you pay what you owe.
Let's hope not. To set the record straight, this year, Eric Adams became the first Black mayor of New York City in 30 years. And now he's playing janitor. Eric Adams, you better call Bill de Blasio on your Metro PCS and ask him to fix this shit. But let's give a round of applause to Judge Ralph J. Porzio. Upon announcing this order, he stated that if it was about safety and public health, no one would be exempt. It is time for the city of New York to do what is right and what is just. And I just want to know if anyone else caught that shade in the statement. That was so clearly directed to Mayor Eric Adams.
Ooh, the shade.
Remember, shortly after the health commissioner ordered the citywide vaccine mandate, Mr. Adams went and wrote an executive order exempting your favorite athletes and musicians from having to get the vaccine.
You know, this is my life. This is one body that I get here. And you telling me what to do with my body, and it has nothing to do with the organization. I'm gonna put that out there. It has nothing to do with the Nets. It has nothing to do with my teammates.
Here on the Gen Zone, we always point out the hypocrisy, but we definitely applaud those in power who not only acknowledge the hypocritical behavior, but actually do something about it. So, another round of applause to the New York Supreme Court.
Yeah. Genzo.
CNN, the constant negative network, is back at it again. They had Dr. Fauci and Dr. Gupta. Dr. Fauci, Dr. Osterholm, Dr. Gupta, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Gupta, And of course, they were talking about COVID, RSV, and the flu. All of a sudden, when the seasons change, it's an alarm for COVID again. I mean, is it me or is this not getting a little ridiculous to everyone? I mean, really look at what they're doing, putting people in constant fear. Every couple of weeks, these guys are back telling us what we need to be doing to avoid the possibility of another shutdown. What bothers me the most is the fact that they talk about super variants. We had Alpha, we had Beta, we had Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lambda, Mu, Nu, Xi, Omicron, Pi, Rho, Sigma, Tau, Epsilon, Phi, Chi, Psi, Omega. I'm recording. But there really was an Omicron, though. Then there are the vaccines. They told us to get 1 shot, 2 shot, red shot, blue shot. I just want to know who really shot Tupac. Now it's the super variant, able to defy all vaccines, leap from person to person with ease, and can kill anyone over 50 with a single cough.
Look, up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane! And now we gotta get a shot for that.
That with the combination of the evolution of variants, as well as the seasonal aspects, that as we get into this coming late fall and winter, it is likely that we will see another variant emerge. And there's already on the horizon one that looks suspicious that it might start to evolve as another variant, and that's the BA 2.75.2.
Then when you add the flu and RSV, what was the purpose of lifting the mask mandates if we still have to live in fear?
What is more dangerous, this virus or the Democrat?
Democrats.
Jhone.
Why are y'all always talking about the border but never telling the whole truth? Every day we hear about thousands of people illegally crossing the border. Every day we hear it's the president's fault. But is it really? The last time anything meaningful was done about immigration was in 1986. You know how long ago that was? Gas was 86 cents. Spike Lee was doing the wrong thing. Family Matters was still casting. The Immigration Reform and Control Act was introduced in 1986 under a Republican president, Ronald Reagan. Some members from the right still say he's one of the greatest presidents to ever live. So if there have been no real significant changes since '86, why is this all of a sudden a problem caused by Obama and now Biden? Just skip past Bush, Clinton, and Bush number 2? How are they immune to being blamed for it? And of course, there's Trump, whose stupid wall attempt failed miserably.
Impossible to cross unless you're one hell of a mountain climber.
Nobody's getting through. You can't get through unless you're a world-class pole vaulter in the Olympic team.
The answer is, it's not any president's fault. It seems to me that it's the senators and congresspeople of these border states that can't seem to come up with legislation to alleviate the congestion at the border that seems to be over 3 decades old.
Jhone.
Why are the Democrats like this? Y'all stay getting punked.
I smell.
Wussy.
Yo, he's a
There are 6 Republican-led states that took the time to go to federal court to stop Biden's student loan forgiveness program. I would have thought the Democrats would surely expose Arkansas, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, South Carolina, and most disappointingly, Nebraska. And the people responsible for wasting taxpayers' time and money trying to fight this.
loser.
And for those of you in my hometown who have a problem with this program, let me reiterate. The job market we were promised has not existed in years.
In a weird turn of events, the job market went from pandemic layoffs in 2020 to the Great Resignation in 2021 to quiet quitting in 2022 to what it looks like layoffs again in 2023.
The wages required to keep up with inflation don't exist. And I'm not talking about degrees in corn husking either. There are no jobs and have not been any jobs for years. There has not been a fair wage in years. and it's impossible for the average American to live life, pay bills, and student loans. I've learned an alarming bit of information. There are some people that are on Social Security that still owe student loans. For that reason alone, those who oppose student loan forgiveness must recognize what Biden is doing. He's waking us up from the nightmare that was once called the American dream.
Genzo.
Republicans say they're the party of law and order. If that's the case, then why so many of y'all are under investigation? I mean, if you're innocent, why not just testify and get it over with?
I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
M&M, my favorite candy. Mark Meadows and Matthew DePerno, meddling and manipulation. More and more lies.
Every day, more lies.
It's crazy because it wasn't always like this. Historically, the Republican Party started off as an anti-slavery coalition that fought to protect the rights of African Americans after the Civil War. In fact, radical Republicans in Congress passed legislation including civil rights and voting rights for black men. I know, right? Who would have thought? Now we're talking early 1920s. The Republican interest swiveled from the people to businesses and finance. And eventually, the GOP became the party for the elite rich. So, who else got the country blamed for the Great Depression? Ever since, the folk in red have been looked at as the bad guys.
I'm the bad guy. Whoa. Genzo.
Now it's time for our QAnon conspiracies. This week we have 3 different conspiracies coming out of Camp QAnon.
When it's 3, you can see it's a magic number.
As usual, Q is giving us innuendo, but I have to say, this is interesting. The Blackstone Group is a leading global investment firm who has multiple government relationships and manages billions of dollars worldwide. Q says the organization is part of the New World Order, which means that their current purchase of Ancestry.com for $4.7 billion is more about gathering people's DNAs than anything else. DNA is supposed to be needed in the New World Order.
New World Order.
And 2, Q says the Democrats are cannibalizing themselves on a regular basis.
This time, it's Senator Al Franken. The Minnesota Democrat is the latest prominent American to be accused of sexual assault. It dates back more than a decade to when Franken was a comedian.
Now, a former aide is accusing the governor of sexual harassment. Lindsey Boylan dropping bombshell accusations today. They include unwanted kissing and touching. She also claims the governor told her, quote, "Let's play strip poker," end quote.
According to Q, the takedown of Governor Cuomo in New York was designed by Hillary Clinton.
Some of the party elders are said to be approaching former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton to ask her if she would run. And of course, that would be a big surprise. Well, there are many doubters in politics. You never know.
What's most astounding is that conspiracies surrounding the Kennedy family never seem to stop. Which brings me to number 3. The acknowledgement that conspiracies and secret societies do exist, at least according to JFK himself. Let's take a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
Genzo.
This is America, where we should embrace the Second Amendment and our right to bear arms should not be infringed.
Good. Why do you want to own guns again? It's my right. Right.
But unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world where everyone is responsible and careful when it comes to weapons. A common response, or the Democratic solution, to the continuous tragedy of gang violence and mass shootings in America is the belief that if there are no guns, there will be no shootings. Wrong.
Wrong. Wrong.
The criminals and even the criminally insane will still find a way to get their hands on guns.
And pull it up. Welcome. I just fucking shot myself.
And severe legislative restrictions will only keep us honest citizens unarmed, which would lead to more unnecessary deaths. It's not a failure of government, it's a failure of culture. The Gen Zone team spoke to some folks on this matter. Here's what they had to say.
So personally, my opinion as somebody that still goes to school, I mean, we were like, half an hour from the Oxford shooting, and that was so scary. Like, a lot of people didn't go to school after that, even half an hour away. I think that there should be guns, but I think that it should be a lot more regulated than it is now. I feel like now people can just go buy guns without without doing a background check on the person, and I feel like you definitely should have some kind of background check. And personally, I don't like guns. I don't think there should be guns, but this if people still want guns, then there should be more regulations on them, essentially.
I think it should increase the age for guns. Yeah, to 25 or something.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your feedback.
Thank you.
We're the Gen Zone on FOXSOUL TV, Tuesdays at 6 p.m.
It's more important to protect gun rights than it is to control gun ownership. I think we have to do that without sacrificing people's rights. I think we have to find another way to be able to quell gang violence in this country, however that may be, because there's many illegally obtained guns flowing around in Chicago. We have to find a way to get those guns off the street, which they're already illegally obtained, they're already illegally possessed. I don't know how to do that. I don't know the best approach to that.
One thing is gun safety, with all the shootings at schools and stuff, those are terrible. I went to a college that had a school shooting, personally, so
wow.
yeah, that's pretty, I wasn't there, thankfully, but still, that's really bad. Education, student loans, student debt forgiveness, I think that's pretty important. And women's rights, or
Oh, yeah.
that's a big one. That's reason, right? So we need to do something about that. That's terrible.
Yeah, completely awful. So considering you had such a close experience with shootings, what is your stance on gun laws? Do you believe that people should have the power to own guns?
Yeah, I mean, guns should be able to be owned, but I guess the type of guns people need, like automatic assault rifles and these other kinds of weapons, at the very least there should be heavy restriction, if not just a ban on them.
Yeah.
But I don't think you should not be able to own a gun, like a pistol or anything. Some people need to defend themselves, but definitely something needs to be done because shootings are happening. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for your
Thank you.
feedback. Have a good rest of your day.
Too.
I think for me, just safety. Living in Brentwood out here, seeing a lot of crime coming up, and I think safety is a big issue.
Yeah, I mean, curbing the ability of people to purchase firearms legally would reduce the circulation of illegal firearms if we understand that at least half of these are coming initially from legal sources. Reducing the amount of people that can purchase a firearm legally means they're less likely to give it to a friend or another gang member. That's one thing. Gun buyback programs have been proposed in several areas and have been done with varying levels of success across different areas. You bring up the UK as an example. They have one of the lowest firearm homicide rates in the world. Now, they do kill people with knives as well, which is a problem that they're dealing with. But
don't we care about the lives?
Yeah, of course. But I mean, you tackle knives next, you tackle gang violence. It's a multifaceted problem.
What about those people that lost their lives for no reason? Like the other 18 that were injured. I could have been one of them. It means a lot because, again, what are we going to do now? How are we going to feel safe in our city?
When it comes to gun control, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But if the decision was up to me, I'd say shoot them both.
Gen Zone.
This week we're starting something new, the Gen Zone Top 10. So here are the top 10 most offensive remarks from our politicians.
I'm going to his office thinking that I'm going to go meet with, right? Because he said Indian American.
At number 10, we have Tim Scott saying, America is not a racist country. Number 9, Fucker Carlson saying, I don't know how black he is, but I'm sure he's a good basketball player. That was referring to President Barack Obama, of course. Number 8 is Republican Eric Porterfield. Regarding the LGBTQ community, he says they're a modern-day version of the KKK without wearing hoods with their antics of hate.
You racist, insensitive, homophobic pigs!
At number 7 is our current President Biden, saying, I mean, you got the first mainstream African-American who is articulate, bright, and clean, and a nice-looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man. Referring to Barack Obama again. That's racist! In at number 6, lo and behold, is Lauren Boebert, referring to Ilhan Omar as a terrorist. She said, well, she doesn't have a backpack, so we should be fine. In at number 5, halfway through, is former President Trump, famously saying, grab her by the pussy. Number 4, Trump again, saying there are very fine people on both sides. One of those sides being neo-Nazis. In at number 3 is Trump again, referring to COVID as the China virus and Kung Flu.
The Chinese virus.
Number 2, oh my holy Trump again? This time he said, when Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best, he said. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, and they're rapists. Oh. And holding the number 1 spot is our first woman, black woman, Vice President Kamala Harris, saying that America is not a racist country. Well, that was our Gen Zone Top 10.
Gen Zone.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Say what you want about President Trump, because I know I say a lot. But the reason he has so many supporters is his ability to communicate clearly and effectively his brand. Everyone wants to appease Generation Z. It's the new wave. It's the future. It's currently the largest voting bloc in America. But nobody is actually talking to us. I'm curious to know what issues concern our generation. I'm Jhone, and you've been in the Gen Zone.
Gen Zone.
Chaos and fear inside the Capitol.
Election integrity, that's why we're here today.
Our team is reporting that there has been this one woman shot.
We're so tired of the bullshit that's going on in America now.
As being erratic or not peaceful.
Is under attack in one of the worst ways ever.
Gen Zone.
Oh, that's real good.
It's the answer we've all been waiting for. The New World Order, the Great Reset, the adrenochrome pedophiles. Make it make sense. Damn. This next generation is gonna be even more fucked up than Gen Z. Let's try to move into the 21st century, people.
Oh, that's real good.